Hi, this is the next video for chapter 15, which focuses logistics and transportation management stuffs. And chapter 15 is divided into three parts. The first part, I will still give you a big picture about what logistics is. Then we move to the second part, which provides you more details about like the decisions we need to make, like for the logistics. And then we move to the last part, which is the tools part. We will learn three tools: the rating system, the linear programming, and the central method. So let's take a look at the first part. What is logistics? So briefly speaking, logistics is the management related to the movement of materials and other resources from one location to another one. And if you use like the internet scanning, if you check like the definition of logistics, actually we have different ways to describe it. But in general, like it talks about the movement stuffs like in supply chain. And if I use a more fancy way to describe what logistics is, here we go. So this is means like the art and the science of obtaining, producing, distributing materials and products in the proper place and in the proper quantities. And actually, nowadays, because we have a lot of like global business, so most of the logistics, which is related to international logistics. International logistics means like those movement stuffs like you are managing actually they are on a global scale. So it's not only internal or country, it's actually you need to work with some companies or other organizations outside your country, your hometown country. And the third party logistics companies are those companies who focus on dealing with the movements, the transportation stuffs, and many manufacturing companies they choose to work with those companies who can help them to deal with all the logistics like the UPS, USPS, FedEx, DHL, and others. And those types of companies, this is what we call the third party logistic companies. In logistics actually is a really important kind of issue we are facing in our business, and it accounts for 8 to 9% of US GDP and still growing. So this is kind of like what logistics is. Now let's discuss more details. As a logistic manager, like when we make decisions about logistic, actually we focus on the cost, we focus on the facility, we focus on the storage, we focus on like the transportation stuffs. And in general, like those following four factors are the factors you may need to consider about when you make decisions related to logistics. So first one is about the transportation modes. We can choose different company. Different company, they can also choose the different transportation modes as well. And just like as a customer, like before we want to shipping something, like we go to UPS, they have different choices for us. Like we can choose like the next day delivery. We can choose like the 2 days. We don't care about the time. We just want to save money. So we can choose like 1 week delivery and so on and so on. So if you choose next day delivery, probably the UPS will use like the airplane to help you to ship those stuffs. This is kind of like one of the most. Or if you don't care about the time, you just care about the cost, then probably they can use like some truck or other like the train or other like the tools to ship your products. So this is kind of what we focus on in terms of the transportation modes. In general, we have 6 different types. So we have truck, which has a really great flexibility. We have ship, which is like over the seas. So it includes the high capacity. You can like transport a lot once, and the cost is really low, but it's really slow. And the plane, which is expensive but quick, and train still like no cost and slow, and it's actually varies in different countries in different places. Some of the places like the train system is really effective, so probably compared with other like trucks, they prefer to use train. like for some European countries, for some Asian countries, but for some, like in US, the train system is not that effective. So probably this is also like the things like you may need to think about because it really consumes time. Or the pipeline. So the pipeline is also really, really cheap, but the construction of pipelines are expensive. And it's kind of a special transportation modes limited to the products shipped with the liquids, the gases, or some like the solids in kind of a slurry now, the slurry forms, as well as the high delivery. Hand delivery is actually, this is also a really hot topic we always discussing right now. So this talks about the last 1 mile delivery. So whatever like the truck, ship, pen, train, pipeline, like the different like the modes you choose here, like for some like especially for online shopping, like if you buy something for Amazon, and once you arrive at home, you find your packages in the front of your door. This is actually kind of a hand delivery. We need to have some workforce to help us to deliver like those units or the products to the front of the door. So this is kind of like the hand delivery. This kind of like the last steps in many supply chain. And this slide over there, so it gives you kind of a big picture considering the cost, the speed, and the quantity. So you can see that the water is really like you can just like the shape, you can have a heavy quantity over there, but it's really snow and the cost is snow. And the highway, this is kind of like a biggest circle here. This is actually means like the truck also has a really great flexibility. And this truck kind of like in the middle for the speed, the cost, and the volume. And for the pipeline, is also cheap, but be careful that like the construction of pipelines is already expensive, and the volume is really high as well, and it's fast. So for this like transportation modes, you need to figure out two things at least. First, what are the 6 transportation modes we have? And the second, the characteristics for each of the modes. Okay, now let's move to the second. So the second discuss the types of the different warehouses. When you want to manage your logistics, this is also one of the things you need to consider about. And the warehouse is kind of a general term to describe the facility the goods are stored for future use. And distribution center is kind of specific warehouse, the special warehouse that could add some additional service to it, such as the packaging or the assembly, or like for some distribution center, it also involves some like the repairing station over there. And the co-stocking is kind of like a big hubs, like the large incoming shipments are broken into the small shipments for the further delivery. While the hub and spoke is kind of like the system combines the ideas and consolidation of the distribution center and the co-stocking. It's really like our hubs. And these slides I gave you kind of like examples of for the airports, just like for the airports, like especially for some like the international airports, they probably bring a large volumes of the passengers for like a big airplane, and those passengers, 20% of them, this is their destination, but for the rest of the 80%, they may have the other connection flights. So they assembly break into like different groups of the passengers to go to into the different like the terminals or the gates to take the connection flights later. So this is what kinds of the ideas about the cost stock. And for the fulfillment center is focused on the small business. So this is actually a distribution center which is designed to handle small or individual orders prepared to deliver to the retainers, the individual retainers. So this is the different types of the warehouse. And the next steps I'd like to discuss with you is about like the third decisions you may need to think about is the facility process. So the common distribution process is kind of like track, receive, store, pick, packing, package, ship. And the distribution facility, actually they need to have a really, really high degree of accuracy about what they received and what they need to ship to others at the receiving or loading docks. And we in general we actually nowadays we use some like system to control that. And the items probably could be like in a stable stations, but all the random locations. And if we consider for the outbound side of the facility, the picking and the packing are the common functions performed. So this is kind of a general idea about how the distribution facility process is. And the last thing for the kind of designing of the logistics you need to consider about is the factors about how to choose the facility location. So this is a really big decision like you may need to consider all the time as a logistics manager when you want to construct a new facility. And in the following 3 slides, we have 15 in total factors, or we call the issues you may need to consider about when you choose a new location for facilities. The first one is related to customers, like for some special, especially for some service manufacturing. I mean, for service industry, they they probably need to figure out like where is the target customers. They probably want to get close as possible as, I mean, necessary to their customers, as well as the business climate. So it talks about like the overall climate for that community, like if there is some like the similar sized or the similar business in that part. Like for example, for some big shopping mall, like they have like a whole floor which are all the restaurants, and a whole floor which focuses on like the women's clothes, and one, I mean, the first floor of most of the shopping mall is kind of like makeups, perfumes, the skincare stuffs, all the shoes stuffs. So they just want to keep a climate over there, like to make sure like if people want to buy something, they know like where they to go, and if you are in that place, you will be one of the options. And as well as the total costs, the tariffs, the infrastructure, like the nodes, the rail system, the public transportation system, and others, as well as the quality of the neighbors, just like we have the in California, in the Bay Areas. So there are a lot of like the high technology companies, and those companies, they actually required like their employees have kind of like the professional skills for that specific position. So that's kind of like that areas, if there are universities who provide those like the resources for them, that would be great. So this is kind of quality labor, as well as the suppliers, especially for lean operations. Like we don't hope like to keep the inventories, so we probably want to keep a really close relationship with the suppliers. Sometimes we choose the closer distance to make sure like we have a great flexibility with the suppliers. And other facilities like your different like distribution centers, locations, your production facilities over there. When you want to construct another like the hubs over there, you need to consider all the current facilities you have, as well as the free trade zones, especially for the import or export business, and the political risk, the government barriers, the trading blocks, environmental regulations, the host community, the competitive advantages. So this is an issue aligned with the overall business strategies over there. So in total, there are 15. There are 15 factors you may need to consider about when you want to choose a location for a new facility. And this is all the conceptual part. for chapter 15. And the main part for chapter 15 actually we focus on the tools. So we will learn 3 tools. The first tool will be the factor rating system. So this is actually a simple but really useful tool to help us to make decisions. And the second method, we will focus on how to use linear programming to help us to make decisions related to the transportation. And the last one, the central method, is help you to choose like the location, the facility locations. This is also a really useful tool to help you to make decisions. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. So factor rating system is kind of most widely used. It's really useful. And what do you need to do? So you need to list factors you care about when you make a decisions. Like for example, if you want to choose a new kind of like the location, and you just like want to check like the locations advantages or the disadvantages, what kinds of factors you care about. Like we have 50 issues over there. And then you just give a range like for each factor, what kinds of points you can give to them. And once you have all of the stuffs, you just need to, if you have like the different locations, like for example, you have B, A, and B, then you just give the points for each location. And once you finish giving the points, you just sum all of them together, and you compare these two results. The higher, the better. So this is kind of like a really simple but useful system. So let's take a look at this example. So this green energy technology company is planning to locate a new solar panel plant in the southeastern US to meet their like the growth demand in the market. And they consider those 3 cities. So they have 3 alternatives, and this is all the factors they care about in terms of this new location, and this is the range of the points. So for the neighbor availability is 0 to 60, while the climate is 0 to 5. So you can give any points between that range for that factor for each cities you have. And based on the table here, we found all the points over there. So you just need to ranking them. Just need to give the points for each alternative you have based on the points ranging based on the factor you have over there, and you have all the points. And once you connect all the information, just like the table gives you, you've almost done. The next steps like help you to make the decision is just like do some simple calculations. So you just need to add up all the points for each alternative you have. So for the Montgomery, we use like 55 plus 37 plus 34 plus 30 plus 22 plus 15 plus 12 plus 7 plus 3. So we will get answers, and we do the same thing for other 2 alternatives here. And once you finish the calculation, you will be able to find, okay, for the Montgomery is 225, for Atlanta is 238, for Charleston is 221, and the higher the better. So when we want to choose the best option, we want to choose the largest number, which is 238. Then we find Atlanta is the best. So based on the results of this rating system, Atlanta will be the best choices for you for this the GET, this company, to build their solar panel.